Michelle Brandt is a wife, a mother, and an environmental scientist who's also now a Democratic candidate for South Carolina House District 113. I talk one-on-one, Michelle, about the issues for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Michelle Brandt, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Thank you for having me.
Likewise, you're very welcome. Needless to say, you are a wife, a mother, and an environmental scientist with a heart for public service. In fact, you are a Democratic candidate for the open South Carolina House District 113. And I know early voting starts soon because the special election actually happens the next day, well, on January 20th, 1st. So tell me, Michelle, why this seat? Why now?
Well, it all goes back to when I had run for office the first time. The reason why I'm running is because I really care about the community and serving the community. People always ask me, Michelle, how do you get in politics? Why did you get in politics? And it all started at a food distribution when I was downtown in 2020. And this man that I met with groceries, I tried to give it to him and he had declined because he didn't own a refrigerator. And Charleston County is a very wealthy county. And so it kind of blew me away that in such a wealthy area that people are still living without basic needs. So I wanted to do something about it. And so I decided to run for office after much prayer and support from my family. I was not successful back in 2022. And then my lease expired where we were living in West Ashley. And so we moved to North Charleston because it was more affordable. We found a great place to live. I don't have a crystal ball. I had no idea that the former representative was going to resign. But I saw this time as an opportunity to try again because the issues that I'm running for are very similar to when I ran it back in 2022. And I feel like I can make a huge difference in the community.
So let me ask you, from 2020 to right now, what exactly is the state of House District 113?
Well, 59% of people that live in District 113 are renters, my family included, and rent prices are extremely high. So I'm running to create a renter's tax credit, and I also want to come up with other creative ideas on how to address the lack of affordable housing. So housing is a major issue here. Then there's also gun violence. Gun violence is huge. I actually hosted a gun violence community forum a few days ago or a week ago, and I had 8 community leaders from the area come and just talk to me about gun violence and prevention and ways to address it. And it was really eye-opening and so helpful to me because a lot of times decisions are made from the top down, but I firmly believe that in order to bring true lasting change, we need to hear from the people that are right here in the community, in the district, and let their voices be heard. And then I will bring those solutions and ideas up to the State House. And they provided me with a ton of things. I don't claim to know everything. I don't know how to fix everything, but I know how to ask good questions and I know who to go to for the answers. And so I'm also running on that. And I'm running to improve our infrastructure and to address the stormwater drainage issues that we have. I support the Low Country Rapid Transit. And I'm also running to create more affordable and accessible childcare because that has become another huge issue. I'm a mom of 3 young children. Childcare is extremely expensive. So when you're trying to pay down student loans like I am, you're paying rent and then now you're having to try to find childcare. It is tough for a lot of people here. And I want to try to alleviate that as much as possible. But then I also want to try to tackle affordable housing in a different way from the other spectrum of making sure that our kids in our schools are getting having access to learning how to be entrepreneurs, learning trades, learning different things that will help support them to get higher incomes once they get out of school so that they can afford to live in the district.
Yes, ma'am. And I want to get back to that in just a second. Obviously, there's a lot of issues to talk about, but overall, when it comes to House District 113, what area does that cover?
So 113 covers the neighborhood Shakora and Cherokee, Ferndale, Russelldale, Charleston Farms, Park Circle. Then you go over to Pepper Hill, and then we have Lincolnville and the part of Latson that is directly underneath Lincolnville. I have like 2 apartment complexes in Northwoods, and I think that's like the broad range. I have Oak Terrace Preserve.
Cool.
But basically the Park Circle area, most of the south end of North Charleston, and then it goes up. It's a gerrymandered district, so it's a lot of the Black neighborhoods in North Charleston. But that is basically the scope of the district, and I'm happy to share a map with anyone who is curious.
Yeah. So let me ask you then, What is the biggest need right now for House District 113? You mentioned a little bit about it earlier.
Mhm. Well, I would say that one of the biggest needs would be affordable housing. Next, I believe addressing the gun violence. I'm torn. There's more than one. It's all the things I'm running on. It's trying to make this area a better place to live, more affordable would make it better. Making sure that people have what they need to live well. People out here, especially in the south end of the district, are homeless, and I'm really concerned, and I want to utilize some of the empty buildings that we do have on the south end to maybe repurpose those for housing for the homeless, to have some temporary kind of housing until those people can get on their feet. Um, there's a lot. I know you asked like what's the most pressing issue, but I feel like all of them are really important and they all affect one another, especially with climate change and addressing the rising sea level. If we create more affordable housing, that won't matter if we're all flooded out in the next 50 years. So it's tackling all of it at once because they're all interconnected.
And I want to get back to those issues in just a second, as I just mentioned too. But let me ask you this: how many people are currently homeless in House District 113?
I am not sure of the particular number, but driving throughout the district, and I told you on the south end of North Charleston, where the bus station is, the
Sure.
Carter station.
Right.
There's so many homeless people, or people that are houseless, unfortunately, and I know that they are going to be moving the Carter station
Right.
to make it more safe because there's a lot of accidents that happen there, and I know organizations like Positive Vibes. Ronald Smith is actually trying to create more change around helping those people. A lot of people have interest in that part of the district. It's up and coming,
Sure.
and I just want to make sure that we are developing in a smart way, but we're not gentrifying the community because we have really rich, vibrant Black community in District 113. We've got Liberty Hill and we've got Lincolnville. Those
Sure.
are very, very important, and a lot of people. Future constituents that I've heard, they don't want that to be lost to gentrification.
But and I'll tell you on a personal side note, Shakur Cherokee used to be on my running route, so I would run from downtown Charleston up there, and I always catch the buses all the time at the Carter Super Stop. But let me ask you, and I know Ronald's place is right diagonally across from the bus station. But let me ask you, has that area been gentrified in your mind?
Well, I know that there have been a few changes. I don't know if it's been gentrified currently. I don't think so. But I know that we've got to keep an eye on it. We've got to make sure that the people that are the binyas have an opportunity to be invested in and invest in that in the up and coming development of that area, repurposing of some of those empty buildings. I know that some of them are county owned. So
Right.
when I'm elected, I will work with Charleston County um, council to see what we can do, like think outside of the box, get creative about how we can use some of those empty buildings to serve a greater purpose in the community and be used for good.
How many of those particular repurposed buildings that are actually owned by the state of South Carolina?
Oh, that's a really good question. I am not sure of that figure off the top of my head, but I know that the building right across from Positive Vibes, that big building, I know that is owned by the county.
Okay.
I'm not sure who owns the old Kmart.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure, but that's like another big parking lot, and I don't know who owns it. So like maybe having a conversation to the owner, the landowner, the building owner to see like what ways can be repurposed because you've got the library, this our beautiful library, like right there. We've got another county building there. I think it's a county building as well. And I'm excited to see those repurposed, but to serve a greater good so that more people can access them.
And when you repurpose those buildings, what other programs do you hope the state will be able to use for those particular issues and those people?
I am so sorry. My son just walked in. Told the
Sure,
kids,
sure.
please, like. So I apologize, Quintin.
Yes.
Um, Theo, can you can you please go? I am so sorry. Could you
Oh, no
please
worries.
repeat your question?
Oh, no worries. So I know that there's a plethora of repurposed buildings in and around that area, from the Kmart area right there near Meady Street Road all the way down to the Superstop. So what programs do you want to have for those particular people in those situations?
Well, when I had my community forum on gun violence, we discussed having like a hub
Mm,
for gun violence and domestic violence survivors, like a one-stop shop. Like if you are in a situation, you can go to this building, sort of like the I know that Dorothea Bernique has the Hope.
sure.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, the Hope
But
Center.
it's a having a building that houses all these different nonprofits,
Mm.
so that you can get the services that you need. Um, Hopefully, including getting DSS in there as well, because a lot of the things that the local nonprofits deal with, especially around surrounding gun violence and domestic violence, we need DSS to step in. And I feel like them having a presence there would remove some of the barriers that people have to getting the services and the care that they need to address these urgent matters in their lives.
I want to touch on that in just a second, but you mentioned obviously Dorothea Benique's our nonprofit with the Hope Center and all that stuff, and her financial services, literacy services
Yep.
initiative. But what public partnership would you have for these repurposed buildings?
That's a great question. A public private partnership. Well, I'm all about public private partnerships. I know that there's so much that the state does offer already that a lot of people don't know about it. So I feel like making sure that we have the right messaging and making sure that the right state organizations are aligned with the corresponding nonprofits to make sure that there's like a seamless flow of information being exchanged to help the people that are in most need.
Speaking of people in need, how many people are in need of help when it comes to gun violence versus the ones that are in need of help when it comes to domestic violence?
That's another great question. I don't have that exact number, but I know that domestic violence and gun violence, they kind of go intertwined hand in hand. About 90% of the fatalities due to domestic violence are done by a gun, by a firearm. And so I do feel like um, they correspond very closely. And when we had the community forum, domestic violence came up so much because a lot of children in our elementary schools and middle schools, all of our schools rather, some of them they witness domestic violence. Some of them are enticed into gangs at a really early age. I also learned during the forum, elementary and middle school students are being recruited into gangs, and that's another like entryway into um, that lifestyle that it could be. I mean, it is very harmful for them because, unfortunately, gun violence is the guns are the number one killer of children in America, and so that's why I'm so passionate about addressing domestic violence and gun violence prevention in general. One of the things I also want to do when I'm elected is to pass a secure firearms storage law so that we can like clamp down on children being able to get guns like way too easily that are like left out when they shouldn't be locked up. And when I talked to the police, I completed the North Charleston Citizens Police Academy, and I learned there that a lot of criminals, for lack of a better word, get access to firearms because they're left in unlocked vehicles. And we can't have that. We need to remove that situation so that if you're going to be a firearm owner, which is totally fine, just make sure you secure your weapons securely and so that children don't have access to them as well.
Let me bring you to the obvious. South Carolina governor signed a bill allowing permitless handguns carrying into law. This is obviously last year. South Carolina Governor Henry Remaster signed into law a bill allowing adults to carry loaded handguns openly with no permit or training. Adults 18 plus who can legally possess guns can now openly carry them with no permit or prior training. Let me ask you this, Michelle. Does this particular bill affirms Second Amendment rights rather than expansions?
Does it affirm Second Amendment rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm, I mean, the fact that we as everyday citizens can get access to firearms, I think that is affirming to our Second Amendment rights. I feel like I might disagree with some of my colleagues on the opposite side of the aisle when it comes to not having the permits and the education needed to handle the weapon responsibly. But I just feel like being able to own a firearm is affirming to the Second Amendment.
But do you believe there are still infringements with this particular bill?
To removing the permit requirement, do
Yeah,
you think there's still an infringement?
infringements with the particular bill, with the permitless handgun bill.
I don't see there being any infringements. with how the law is written now. I don't see that at all.
Now, in your mind, from a personal perspective, obviously being out in the community, what in your mind was actually lost to gain this permitless carry bill?
What I think was lost was citizens like myself a sense of safety. I know that I have friends that are gun owners, and I love them dearly, and that is absolutely 1,000% fine. But knowing that people can just be carrying these weapons without being properly trained, without having a background check, is a little unnerving with the state of gun violence in our country as a whole. Knowing how we just a few years ago had the shooting in the AME church and downtown, and that's really hard. And so just I think I personally I feel like we've lost a sense of safety, honestly.
Do you feel that more prohibited locations and stiffer penalties would have made this bill much more stronger, in your opinion?
Um, I mean, yes. I mean, if we're gonna have people be able to carry weapons without a permit anywhere, I think there are already laws, federal laws, and you can't have um, firearms in like state-owned buildings. But I feel like for other spaces, I feel like we need it to be more explicitly clear where you can and cannot have firearms. I do know that businesses do have signs, and the library has signs, and but to make it, I guess, more robust to me, I feel like it would be better for me if there was verbiage around explicitly around where you can and cannot bring a firearm.
As a matter of fact, as a footnote, the Bureau of Protective Services, which is an arm of the South Carolina Department of Public Safety, reminds the public that the passage of the constitutional carry is still illegal under the new law to carry guns into particular places that you just mentioned where you couldn't carry them before: schools,
Mhm.
courthouse, and of course, the state house. This is a redundant question, but why not lift those particular restrictions in this particular bill in your mind?
I am not sure. I feel like eliminating that would cause, I think, a lot of severe problems. I think it would create some chaos because we definitely don't need guns in schools. We don't need them in state buildings, county-owned buildings. It's not necessary. So I think removing that would cause a lot of problems.
So let me ask you this: what is the what is the reciprocacy of with this as far as our constitutional carry states?
Well, I haven't actually looked into what other constitutional carry states are doing. I have done a lot of research on what states that have passed like common sense gun reform, so that having background checks, banning assault rifles. I'm so sorry, the kids are playing in the back.
Sure, sure, I
I'm
can wrap it up
so
too.
sorry if you can you hear them?
Yeah, no, no, I
Oh
can't, but I can
God,
wrap
oh
it
my
up.
God.
Yeah, I know you're busy.
Listen, the children are off for the holiday. They go back to school on Monday. Uh, Thank you so much for your grace and patience. But my kids are having a great time with our neighbors outside.
Yeah, yeah, no
But I was
worries.
saying though, I have researched what states that I hope to emulate are doing, and I
Hmm.
hope to bring some of that change to South Carolina.
What changes quick? I know I got to wrap it up quickly, but what changes would be ideal for House District 113 and the state as a whole?
Securing firearms, making that a law. Also, oh my goodness, children, background checks, and closing the Charleston loophole.
Michelle Brandt, who is a candidate, Democratic candidate for South Carolina House District 113, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close Ups. And as a footnote, the other opponent, Courtney Waters, is welcome to come on Quintin's Close Ups to talk about why she's running for the seat as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And if you want to know more information about my campaign, please visit michelleforsc.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.